comic book seen back in 1940 and originally called Captain Marvel until the loss of the name due to trademark conflicts, Shazam is a DC character that at one point was even more popular than Superman. Therefore, it should be of no surprise to anyone the character is finally getting his due and has gotten his own movie. The question, of course, is can Shazam live up to his decades-long legacy, and can he once again manage to eclipse Superman, this time in cinema? Before I dive into my review of the new Shazam film, though, I want to know your thoughts on the film. Did you love it, hate it, or something else entirely? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. With that out of the way, let's jump in. Set in present-day Philadelphia, Shazam follows Billy Batson, a 14-year-old kid who has spent years searching for his missing mother and being sent from foster home to foster home as a result of his rebellious nature. Placed once again in a new home and feeling like maybe he should give up his fruitless search, Billy does his best to try and settle in with his new foster family, as well as try to get along with his over-enthusiastic roommate, Freddy. His world gets turned upside down though when he has a fated encounter with a wizard, who chooses him as his new champion and bestows upon him a slew of powers, including the ability to transform into an adult form when he says Shazam. Teaming up with Freddy, Billy uses his newfound powers to do what any kid would do, and use them for his own amusement. However, with the appearance of the evil Dr. Thaddeus Sivana, Billy will have to realize that there is much more to being a hero than looking like one, and that he needs to grow up as a person to match his adult alter ego. Now, when it comes to what I liked about the movie, I think the one word that perfectly summarizes it up is fun. While DC movies of the past have been just so try-hard with over-the-top edginess and the dull color palette and the characters who can't seem to know how to enjoy anything about their lives, this movie felt like a breath of fresh air due to the lighthearted tone and childlike sense of wonder. It may be a pretty basic superhero origin story, but the fact that it has some elements of the movie Big, as well as humor that is well-timed and consistently funny, made it stand out. Zachary Levi, who portrays Billy Batson in his adult form, was great, and it almost seems like he was born to play the role, with the way he oozes charisma and the way that you can tell that he had a blast making this movie. Whether he is testing out his new powers or using them to pull pranks, you really get the feeling of a kid stuck in an adult body. Not only was the humor and the lighthearted tone good, but I also enjoyed the fact that the movie had some heart to it too. Seeing the way Billy bonds with his fellow foster kid Freddy was really nice. And although his relationship with the rest of his new family isn't that well developed, seeing the story of a kid who finds a place he can call home is always touching on some level. Not only that, but unlike other heroes in the DCEU, whose powers seem to make them tortured souls 24/7, seeing an individual who takes his new responsibilities in stride and who chooses to rise up to the occasion was quite nice. With that being said, there were some things that I didn't like about the movie, so allow me to talk about the negatives. One thing that I saw as a big negative was the bad guys in the film. From Sivana to the demons he teams up with, and even the impossibly evil school bullies, I felt that they were all very paper thin and one-dimensional. Though they try to give Sivana some backstory at the beginning of the film, for instance, I still felt that he was just very uninteresting, largely forgettable, and that his motivations were very weak, apart from him just wanting to be in control. Not only that, but the fact that he is absolutely useless without the demon's help makes him a pretty lame villain and not much of a threat. Another thing that I thought was a negative is that despite being a hero with a variety of powers, Shazam always seems to end up doing the same moves over and over. Similar to Superman and more recently Captain Marvel, I feel that some of the fights, especially near the end, were kind of lackluster, filled with nothing but people throwing punches at each other or, worse, opponents turning into bright lights, charging at one another. You would think that a couple of people with magic powers would use them more creatively, but instead you end up with some pretty generic fights. Finally, while I won't exactly spoil how the story gets there or anything, I felt that the way that Billy suddenly cares for and begins to consider these people he lives with as family was a little rushed. I mean, this is a kid who we have been told has never cared for any previous foster family, and yet, seemingly because the story deems it convenient, this is the one that he chooses to care for. I could believe him getting closer to Freddy since we do indeed see them bond throughout the film, but the way he accepts the rest of his new family just didn't feel like natural progression. And honestly, it felt like the movie chose to throw that in there as a nice way to just wrap things up. A few flaws aside though, I thought this movie was very enjoyable and definitely my favorite in the DCEU. Filled with a lot of fun and a ton of heart, I think Shazam does a great job and I would definitely recommend it. But hey, that's just my opinion. And remember, don't take anything I say too seriously. After all, I'm just a wannabe reviewer. Thanks for watching.